When I was 27, my father told me I would never amount to anything more than a glorified medical assistant. He said it with the cold certainty of a man who believed he was delivering necessary truth rather than devastating judgment. 7 years later, I walked into the cardiac surgery unit where my sister lay fighting for her life, and her attending physician looked at me with recognition and said, "Dr. Martinez, I had no idea you were related to our patient. We are honored to have the chief of cardiothoracic surgery here." The silence that followed from my family was louder than any applause I had ever received. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. My name is Dr. Sofia Martinez, and this is the story of how I transformed the most devastating failure of my life into the foundation for unprecedented success. The path I traveled required me to question everything I believed about myself, challenge every assumption my family held about my capabilities, and ultimately prove that sometimes the people who know us longest understand us least. The foundation of my story begins in the industrial city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where my family operated a small but successful medical supply company. The Martinez family had built their reputation on reliability, hard work, and an unwavering belief in traditional paths to success. My father, Roberto Martinez, had immigrated from Colombia with nothing but determination and a fierce commitment to providing his children with opportunities he never possessed. My mother, Linda, worked as a nurse practitioner and brought both medical knowledge and practical wisdom to our household discussions about career planning and life decisions. Our family structure was built around clear expectations and well-defined roles. My older brother, Carlos, had followed the predetermined path by earning his MBA and joining the family business, where he demonstrated exceptional talent for operations and strategic planning. My younger sister, Isabella, was pursuing her degree in pharmacy, having shown early aptitude for chemistry and patient care. Both siblings had met family expectations with consistency and success, establishing a pattern that everyone assumed I would naturally follow. The assumption was that I would complete medical school, specialize in family medicine or internal medicine, and eventually establish a practice that would serve our community while providing financial stability and social respect. This plan had been discussed since my early teenage years, and my academic performance through high school and undergraduate studies had supported the family's confidence in this direction. I had completed my undergraduate degree in biochemistry at the University of Pittsburgh, with a grade point average that placed me in the top 10% of my class. My medical college admission test scores exceeded the 90th percentile, and I had gained acceptance to several respected medical schools. The University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine offered both academic excellence and the convenience of remaining close to family, making it the logical choice for beginning my medical education. The first 2 years of medical school proceeded according to plan. I excelled in anatomy, physiology, pathology, and pharmacology, consistently ranking among the top students in my class. My clinical rotations during the 3rd year revealed particular strengths in surgery and emergency medicine, where the combination of technical skill, rapid decision-making, and pressure management seemed to align perfectly with my natural abilities and temperament. However, during my 4th year of medical school, a series of events converged to create circumstances that would fundamentally alter my planned trajectory. My father suffered a significant heart attack that required emergency intervention and extended recovery. The family business faced unexpected financial challenges due to changes in healthcare regulations that affected our supply chain relationships. My mother increased her working hours to help compensate for lost income while simultaneously caring for my father during his rehabilitation. The combination of family crisis and financial pressure created obligations that extended beyond anything I had previously experienced. I found myself dividing time between demanding clinical rotations, family caregiving responsibilities, and part-time work to help support household expenses. The academic excellence that had previously come naturally began to require increasingly difficult choices about time allocation and priority management. The breaking point arrived during my surgery rotation, ironically the specialty that had captured my deepest interest and demonstrated my strongest aptitude. The rotation required extensive preparation, long hours in the operating room, and additional study time to master the complex procedures and decision-making frameworks that define surgical practice. However, my father's condition had deteriorated, requiring more intensive care coordination and family support. I made the decision to request a delay in my surgery rotation to focus on family obligations, believing that I could return to complete the requirements once my father's health stabilized and family circumstances improved. The academic administration denied my request, explaining that the clinical rotation schedule could not accommodate individual delays without jeopardizing graduation timelines and residency application deadlines. Faced with an impossible choice between family obligations and academic requirements, I chose family. I formally withdrew from my surgery rotation and requested a leave of absence from medical school, intending to return once circumstances permitted. The decision felt both necessary and temporary, a sacrifice that demonstrated proper priorities while preserving future opportunities. The family's reaction to my withdrawal was immediate and devastating. My father, despite his weakened condition, expressed profound disappointment and anger at what he perceived as abandonment of everything the family had worked to achieve. My mother, while more understanding of the immediate pressures I faced, could not hide her concern about the long-term implications of interrupting medical school so close to graduation. The conversation that would define my relationship with my family for years to come occurred 3 weeks after my withdrawal from medical school. My father had recovered sufficiently to return to limited involvement in the family business, and the immediate crisis that had precipitated my decision had stabilized. During a family dinner intended to discuss future plans and recovery strategies, my father delivered his assessment of my choices and character. "Sophia," he said, his voice carrying the weight of disappointment and certainty, "you have proven that you do not possess the dedication required for medical practice. Medicine demands unwavering commitment, and you have shown that you will abandon your responsibilities when circumstances become difficult. Perhaps it is better that you discovered this limitation now, rather than failing patients who would depend on your reliability." The words struck with the force of a physical blow, not because they were delivered with cruelty, but because they came from someone whose opinion had always mattered deeply to me. My father was not attempting to hurt me. He genuinely believed he was providing necessary guidance based on realistic assessment of my character and capabilities. My mother attempted to moderate the harshness of his judgment, but she did not fundamentally disagree with his conclusion. Carlos expressed sympathy for the difficult circumstances I had faced, but suggested that successful people find ways to manage multiple obligations without compromising their primary commitments. Isabella remained silent, perhaps recognizing that any attempt to support my position might undermine her own standing within the family structure. The family's consensus was clear. I had demonstrated that I lacked the character and dedication required for medical practice. The withdrawal from medical school was interpreted not as a difficult decision made under extraordinary circumstances, but as evidence of fundamental weakness that would prevent success in any demanding profession. The immediate practical consequence was that I would need to find alternative employment while determining a new career direction. The family business could provide temporary work, but my father made it clear that this would be a charitable arrangement, rather than recognition of my potential for significant contribution. The expectation was that I would eventually find employment as a medical assistant, laboratory technician, or similar support role that would utilize some portion of my education without requiring the dedication that medicine demanded. The emotional consequences were more profound and longer-lasting. I had built my identity around academic achievement and the expectation of medical practice since early adolescence. The family's assessment challenged not only my career plans but my fundamental understanding of my own capabilities and character. The suggestion that I lacked dedication was particularly painful because it contradicted my perception of the sacrifices I had made for family welfare. During the weeks following this conversation, I experienced a period of profound self-doubt and depression that extended beyond normal disappointment about changed circumstances. I questioned whether my father's assessment was accurate, whether I had indeed demonstrated fundamental character flaws that would prevent success in demanding fields. The academic confidence that had sustained me through years of challenging coursework seemed to evaporate, replaced by uncertainty about my judgment, dedication, and potential for future achievement. The practical necessity of finding employment forced me to engage with the job market while processing these emotional challenges. I applied for positions as a medical assistant, clinical research coordinator, and laboratory technician, roles that would utilize portions of my education while providing the stability and predictability that my family believed were more appropriate for my character and capabilities. The interview process proved to be an additional source of humiliation and self-doubt. Potential employers consistently questioned why someone with my educational background was seeking support roles rather than continuing toward medical practice. My explanations about family obligations and temporary setbacks were met with skepticism and concern about my commitment and reliability. The very education that had once been a source of pride became a liability that suggested either dishonesty or fundamental problems with my character and judgment. After 6 weeks of unsuccessful job searching, I finally received an offer from the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center to work as a clinical research coordinator in the Department of Cardiac Surgery. The position involved managing patient data, coordinating clinical trials, and providing administrative support for research projects. The salary was modest, the responsibilities were primarily clerical, and the role required none of the advanced medical knowledge I had acquired during my years of education. However, the position offered something that I had not anticipated: daily exposure to the practice of cardiac surgery and the opportunity to observe some of the most skilled surgeons in the region. While my official responsibilities were limited to data management and administrative coordination, my proximity to complex medical cases and surgical procedures provided an unexpected form of continuing education. Dr. Michael Chen, the chief of cardiothoracic surgery, was a demanding perfectionist who expected excellence from every member of his team, regardless of their official role or level of responsibility. His standards for research coordination were as rigorous as his expectations for surgical performance, requiring detailed understanding of cardiac pathology, surgical techniques, and patient management protocols. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Rather than viewing these demands as burdensome, I discovered that I was eager to meet and exceed Dr. Chen's expectations. The work provided intellectual challenges that engaged the medical knowledge I had acquired during my truncated education, while offering opportunities to learn about advanced surgical procedures that I had never encountered during my clinical rotations. My family viewed this employment as confirmation of their assessment about my appropriate career level. My father expressed satisfaction that I had found work that utilized my education without requiring the dedication and reliability that medical practice demanded. My mother was pleased that I was working in a medical environment, even if not as a practicing physician. My siblings treated my new role as a reasonable outcome, given my demonstrated limitations. The assumption was that I would perform competently in this support role, while gradually accepting that my medical career aspirations had been unrealistic. The family expected that I would eventually find satisfaction in contributing to medical care without bearing the primary responsibility for patient outcomes or complex decision-making. However, during my first months as a research coordinator, I began to experience something unexpected: a renewed sense of intellectual engagement and professional purpose. The exposure to cutting-edge cardiac surgery research, combined with daily interaction with patients facing life-threatening conditions, reminded me of why I had originally chosen medicine as my career path. More significantly, I discovered that my educational background, combined with my natural analytical abilities, enabled me to contribute to the research process in ways that extended beyond basic administrative coordination. I began identifying patterns in patient data that had implications for treatment protocols, suggesting modifications to research procedures that improved efficiency and accuracy, and developing organizational systems that enhanced the department's research capabilities. Dr. Chen noticed these contributions and began assigning me responsibilities that were typically reserved for more senior research staff. Within 6 months, I was effectively managing multiple research projects simultaneously, coordinating with pharmaceutical companies on clinical trial protocols, and preparing research publications for peer review. The intellectual stimulation and professional recognition I experienced in this role began to restore my confidence in my medical knowledge and analytical capabilities. However, it also created a growing sense of frustration about the limitations of my current position and the assumptions that others held about my potential for advancement. I realized that I was effectively performing many of the functions of a physician researcher while being compensated and recognized at the level of administrative support staff. My medical education, which I had viewed as incomplete and therefore valueless, was actually providing me with knowledge and skills that were directly applicable to advancing medical research and improving patient care. This recognition led to a profound shift in my understanding of my circumstances and possibilities. Rather than accepting my family's assessment that I lacked the dedication required for medical practice, I began to consider whether I had simply chosen family obligations over career advancement during a period of extraordinary circumstances. The question that began to dominate my thinking was whether I possessed the capability and determination to complete my medical education and pursue the surgical career that had originally captured my interest. The family crisis that had forced my withdrawal from medical school had resolved, and my father's health had stabilized sufficiently that intensive caregiving was no longer required. However, returning to medical school would require confronting not only the academic and financial challenges of completing my degree, but also the family expectations and assumptions that had developed during my time away from formal medical education. The prospect of challenging these assumptions felt both necessary and terrifying, as it would require proving not only that I could succeed in medical practice, but that my original assessment of my capabilities had been more accurate than my family's conclusion about my limitations. Standing at this crossroads, I faced a decision that would determine not only my career trajectory but my understanding of my own potential and character. The safe path was to continue in my current role, accepting the family's assessment while finding satisfaction in contributing to medical research, without pursuing the primary responsibility and recognition that came with being a practicing physician. The alternative was to risk additional failure and family disappointment by attempting to complete medical school and pursue surgical training. This path offered the possibility of vindication and professional fulfillment, but it also carried the risk of confirming my family's assessment that I lacked the dedication and reliability required for success in demanding fields. The decision I made during those quiet evening hours in my small apartment near the medical center would ultimately transform not only my own life but also my family's understanding of potential, dedication, and the complex factors that contribute to both failure and success in pursuing ambitious goals. As I reflected on the journey that had brought me to this moment, I recognized that the path forward would require not only academic and professional achievement, but also the courage to challenge assumptions about my character and capabilities that had been accepted as fundamental truth by people whose opinions mattered deeply to me. The story of how I navigated this challenge, completed my medical education under extraordinary circumstances, and ultimately achieved recognition as one of the youngest department chiefs in academic medicine, begins with a single decision made in that small apartment. The decision to believe in my own potential, even when the people closest to me had concluded that such belief was unrealistic and potentially destructive. The transformation that followed would require 7 years of sustained effort, countless sacrifices, and the gradual building of evidence that would ultimately force my family to reconsider not only their assessment of my capabilities, but their understanding of what factors contribute to success and failure in pursuing ambitious goals. The moment when my sister's attending physician recognized me as the chief of cardiothoracic surgery represents the culmination of this journey, but the true victory was not the recognition itself, but the restoration of my own confidence in my ability to achieve goals that others had deemed beyond my capabilities and character. This is the story of how I transformed the most devastating failure of my life into the foundation for unprecedented success, and how I learned that sometimes the people who know us longest understand us least about our potential for growth, change, and achievement under circumstances they have never imagined possible. The decision to pursue re-enrollment in medical school crystallized during a particularly complex cardiac surgery case that I observed while coordinating research data collection. The patient was a 43-year-old construction worker who had suffered a massive myocardial infarction requiring emergency coronary artery bypass grafting. As I watched Dr. Chen and his surgical team methodically restore blood flow to the patient's heart, I experienced a profound recognition of purpose that transcended my current administrative role. The technical precision required for the procedure, combined with the life-or-death consequences of every decision, represented exactly the type of challenge that had originally drawn me to medicine. However, my position as research coordinator limited me to observing and documenting rather than participating in the direct care that could determine whether this father of 3 would return to his family or become another mortality statistic. During the post-operative period, as I compiled patient data and coordinated follow-up protocols, I found myself analyzing the surgical decisions and treatment plans with the same intensity that I had applied to my medical school coursework. The difference was that my understanding had been enhanced by months of exposure to real-world applications of the theoretical knowledge I had acquired during my formal education. This experience forced me to confront an uncomfortable truth about my current circumstances. While my family had concluded that my withdrawal from medical school demonstrated insufficient dedication for medical practice, my daily work in the cardiac surgery department was proving that my interest in medicine had not diminished, but had actually deepened through exposure to complex cases and advanced procedures. The practical challenge of returning to medical school while maintaining my current employment required careful analysis of both financial and academic logistics. My research coordinator position provided steady income and health insurance, both of which were essential for maintaining independence from family financial support. However, completing medical school would require significant time commitments that might be incompatible with full-time employment. After extensive research into academic policies and alternative pathways, I discovered that the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine offered a part-time completion program for students who had withdrawn due to extraordinary circumstances. The program allowed students to complete remaining coursework and clinical rotations over an extended timeline while maintaining other professional responsibilities. The application process required detailed documentation of the circumstances that had led to my initial withdrawal, along with evidence of continued academic competence and professional development during my time away from formal medical education. My performance as research coordinator provided compelling evidence of sustained engagement with medical knowledge and practice, while my contributions to cardiac surgery research demonstrated intellectual growth beyond my original academic foundation. Dr. Chen served as a crucial advocate during this application process. His letter of recommendation emphasized my exceptional performance in research coordination and my demonstrated ability to function effectively within a demanding medical environment. More significantly, he highlighted specific instances where my analytical capabilities and medical knowledge had contributed to improved research outcomes and patient care protocols. The medical school admissions committee scheduled an interview to assess my readiness to return to formal medical education. The interview panel included faculty members who remembered my original academic performance, along with administrators responsible for evaluating students who sought to return after extended absences. The most challenging aspect of the interview was addressing the perception that my initial withdrawal indicated insufficient commitment to medical practice. I needed to demonstrate that my decision had been based on extraordinary family circumstances rather than fundamental character flaws, while also showing that my time away from medical school had strengthened rather than weakened my dedication to becoming a physician. I prepared for this interview with the same intensity that I applied to complex research projects, developing comprehensive responses to anticipated questions while gathering documentation that would support my narrative. The key insight that guided my preparation was the recognition that I needed to reframe my withdrawal not as evidence of failure, but as demonstration of mature decision-making under circumstances that required prioritizing competing obligations. During the interview, I presented my withdrawal from medical school as a temporary sacrifice made to address family crisis, followed by systematic preparation for return to academic medicine through professional development and continued engagement with medical practice. I emphasized that my experience as research coordinator had provided unique insights into the practical applications of medical knowledge, potentially making me a stronger medical student than I had been during my initial enrollment. The interview panel was particularly interested in my contributions to cardiac surgery research and my working relationship with Dr. Chen. They asked detailed questions about specific research projects and my role in developing improved protocols for patient care and data collection. These questions allowed me to demonstrate not only sustained engagement with medical knowledge, but also growth in analytical capabilities and professional judgment. The admissions committee approved my application for re-enrollment with the provision that I would need to complete additional coursework to address knowledge gaps that might have developed during my absence from formal medical education. The part-time completion program would extend my graduation timeline by approximately 18 months, but would allow me to maintain my research coordinator position while completing degree requirements. The financial arrangement I negotiated with Dr. Chen allowed me to reduce my research coordination responsibilities to part-time status while maintaining sufficient income to support independent living. This arrangement required exceptional time management and organizational skills, as I would need to balance academic coursework, clinical rotations, research responsibilities, and preparation for medical licensing examinations. My family's reaction to my decision to return to medical school was complex and revealing. My father expressed skepticism about my ability to complete the program successfully while maintaining employment, suggesting that my previous withdrawal demonstrated that I would again abandon medical education when circumstances became challenging. My mother offered cautious support but emphasized her concern about the financial and emotional stress of attempting to balance multiple demanding commitments. Carlos questioned the wisdom of pursuing medical practice at my age, noting that I would be significantly older than typical medical school graduates when I entered residency training. He suggested that my current research position provided stable employment with reasonable advancement opportunities, and that pursuing medical practice represented unnecessary risk for uncertain benefits. Isabella was the most supportive family member, perhaps because her own experience in pharmacy school had given her insight into the demands of medical education. She recognized that my work in cardiac surgery research had maintained and enhanced my medical knowledge, making return to formal education a logical progression rather than a desperate attempt to recover from failure. The family consensus remained that my decision was probably unwise and potentially harmful to my financial stability and emotional well-being. However, their opposition was less intense than I had anticipated, possibly because my demonstrated competence as research coordinator had challenged some of their assumptions about my professional capabilities. The first semester of my return to medical school proved to be simultaneously challenging and validating. The coursework covered pathophysiology and clinical decision-making frameworks that were directly applicable to my research work, creating synergy between my academic and professional responsibilities. My experience with real-world medical cases provided context that enhanced my understanding of theoretical concepts, while formal education strengthened my analytical foundation for research activities. The part-time program structure required exceptional discipline and time management, as I needed to complete the same academic requirements as full-time students, while maintaining research responsibilities that demanded high-level performance. My typical schedule included classes and laboratory sessions 3 days per week, research coordination activities on the remaining weekdays, and extensive study sessions during evenings and weekends. The clinical rotations presented unique challenges, because they required sustained presence in hospital settings that potentially conflicted with my research coordination schedule. Dr. Chen proved instrumental in resolving these conflicts by arranging rotations within the cardiac surgery department that allowed me to fulfill academic requirements while continuing my research responsibilities. These integrated rotations provided extraordinary learning opportunities that were unavailable to traditional medical students. I participated in surgical procedures as a student observer, while simultaneously collecting research data and coordinating clinical trial protocols. This dual role enhanced my understanding of both the technical aspects of cardiac surgery and the research methodologies that drive advancement in surgical techniques and patient care. My academic performance during this return to medical school exceeded my original achievements during traditional enrollment. The combination of practical experience and focused motivation resulted in examination scores that placed me among the top performers in my class, despite the additional challenges of balancing academic and professional responsibilities. More significantly, my contributions to cardiac surgery research continued to expand and gain recognition within the academic medical community. I co-authored several peer-reviewed publications based on research projects that I had coordinated, and I presented findings at national conferences focused on cardiac surgery and medical research methodologies. These research achievements provided compelling evidence that my withdrawal from medical school had not reflected insufficient dedication or capability, but rather a temporary interruption caused by extraordinary circumstances. The publications and conference presentations established my credibility within the medical community and demonstrated sustained intellectual growth during my time away from formal education. Dr. Chen began involving me in increasingly complex research projects that required advanced understanding of surgical techniques, patient management protocols, and statistical analysis methodologies. My role evolved from basic data coordination to active participation in research design, hypothesis development, and manuscript preparation. This expanded involvement in research activities provided unexpected preparation for the clinical decision-making and analytical thinking that would be required during residency training. I developed expertise in evaluating medical literature, assessing treatment protocols, and identifying opportunities for improving patient care through evidence-based practice modifications. The combination of formal medical education and advanced research experience created a unique foundation that distinguished me from traditional medical students. While my classmates were learning theoretical frameworks for clinical practice, I was simultaneously applying these concepts to real-world research problems and patient care situations. My professors began to recognize this distinctive preparation and invited me to participate in advanced seminars and research projects that were typically reserved for graduate students or residents. These opportunities allowed me to develop relationships with faculty members who would later serve as mentors and advocates during the residency application process. The most significant development during this period was my growing expertise in cardiac surgery research and my increasing recognition as a knowledgeable contributor to the academic mission of the department. Dr. Chen began consulting with me on research strategy and manuscript development, treating me as a junior colleague rather than simply an administrative coordinator. This evolving professional relationship provided invaluable insights into the academic career pathway that combined clinical practice with research leadership. I observed how Dr. Chen balanced surgical responsibilities with research oversight, teaching obligations, and administrative duties, gaining understanding of the multifaceted nature of academic medical careers. My performance during clinical rotations and other specialties was enhanced by the analytical skills and medical knowledge I had developed through cardiac surgery research. I approached patient care with a research-oriented mindset that emphasized evidence-based decision-making and systematic evaluation of treatment options. Attending physicians noted my unusual depth of medical knowledge and my ability to critically evaluate clinical decisions using research literature and statistical analysis. Several rotation supervisors commented that my approach to patient care reflected the sophistication typically associated with more advanced trainees. These positive evaluations provided important validation that my unconventional pathway through medical education was producing superior rather than inferior preparation for clinical practice. The combination of formal coursework and practical research experience was creating capabilities that exceeded those of traditional medical students. During my final year of medical school, I began preparing for residency applications with particular focus on cardiac surgery programs. My research experience and publications provided compelling evidence of commitment to the specialty, while my academic performance demonstrated competence in the foundational knowledge required for surgical training. Dr. Chen agreed to serve as my primary mentor and advocate during the residency application process. His recommendation letter emphasized my exceptional research contributions and my demonstrated ability to function effectively in demanding medical environments. More importantly, he highlighted my unique preparation for surgical training through extensive exposure to complex cardiac procedures and research methodologies. The residency interview process provided opportunities to discuss my unconventional pathway through medical education and to demonstrate the advantages of combining formal coursework with practical research experience. Program directors were consistently impressed by my research publications and my sophisticated understanding of cardiac surgery techniques and outcomes. My medical school graduation represented not only personal achievement but also vindication of my decision to return to formal medical education, despite family skepticism and practical challenges. My academic performance, research contributions, and residency match results provided compelling evidence that my original assessment of my capabilities had been more accurate than my family's conclusion about my limitations. The graduation ceremony was attended by my family, who witnessed my recognition for academic excellence and research achievement. My father's expression during the ceremony reflected a complex mixture of pride, surprise, and perhaps reconsideration of his previous assessment of my dedication and capabilities. Dr. Chen delivered remarks during the graduation ceremony that specifically acknowledged my contributions to cardiac surgery research and my potential for leadership in academic medicine. His public recognition of my achievements provided visible validation of the professional development that had occurred during my unconventional journey through medical education. As I prepared to begin residency training in cardiac surgery, I reflected on the transformation that had occurred since my withdrawal from medical school. The experience had taught me that setbacks could become foundations for stronger achievement if approached with systematic preparation and unwavering commitment to long-term goals. The research skills, clinical knowledge, and professional relationships I had developed during my time as research coordinator had created a foundation for surgical training that exceeded what I could have achieved through traditional medical school pathway alone. The apparent failure of withdrawing from medical school had ultimately enabled opportunities for growth and achievement that would not have been available otherwise. My family's initial assessment of my withdrawal as evidence of insufficient dedication had been replaced by growing recognition that my decisions reflected strategic thinking and mature prioritization of competing obligations. The success of my return to medical education had challenged their assumptions about the relationship between temporary setbacks and long-term potential for achievement. The beginning of residency training represented the next phase of a journey that had transformed from apparent failure into systematic preparation for leadership in academic medicine. The foundation had been established not only for completing surgical training but for pursuing the research and clinical excellence that would ultimately distinguish my career in ways that neither I nor my family had initially imagined possible. The cardiac surgery residency program at Johns Hopkins Hospital represented the culmination of years of strategic preparation and the beginning of the most demanding professional challenge I had ever undertaken. My acceptance into one of the nation's most competitive surgical training programs validated the unconventional pathway I had pursued through medical education, but it also established expectations for performance that would test every capability I had developed during my research coordinator years. Dr. Margaret Thompson, the chief of cardiac surgery at Johns Hopkins, had recruited me based on my exceptional research background and the strong recommendation from Dr. Chen. However, she made it clear during our initial meeting that research credentials alone would not ensure success in surgical training. The program demanded technical excellence, unwavering dedication, and the ability to make life-or-death decisions under extreme pressure. The transition from medical student to surgical resident required fundamental adjustments in both professional identity and daily responsibilities. As a research coordinator, I had contributed to patient care through data analysis and protocol development, maintaining intellectual distance from the immediate pressures of clinical decision-making. As a surgical resident, I would bear direct responsibility for patient outcomes and would need to develop the technical skills required to perform complex procedures with precision and confidence. The first month of residency training focused on orientation to hospital systems, basic surgical techniques, and the hierarchical structure that governed interactions between residents, attending physicians, and support staff. The learning curve was steep and unforgiving, with new residents expected to master vast amounts of information while adapting to work schedules that frequently exceeded 80 hours per week. My research background provided unexpected advantages during this initial training period. The analytical skills I had developed through coordinating clinical trials enabled me to process complex medical information efficiently and to identify patterns in patient presentations that might escape less experienced trainees. My familiarity with cardiac anatomy and physiology, gained through years of reviewing surgical cases and research data, accelerated my understanding of the procedures I was learning to perform. However, the transition from theoretical knowledge to hands-on surgical practice proved more challenging than I had anticipated. The precision required for suturing, the spatial reasoning necessary for navigating complex anatomical structures, and the physical stamina demanded by lengthy procedures required capabilities that could only be developed through extensive practice and repetition. Dr. Sarah Kim, the senior resident assigned as my primary mentor, recognized both my analytical strengths and my technical limitations. She implemented a supplementary training program that leveraged my research background while accelerating the development of my surgical skills. This program included additional laboratory sessions focused on surgical techniques, participation in cadaveric anatomy reviews, and observer roles in complex procedures that would typically be restricted to more advanced residents. The most significant opportunity to demonstrate my capabilities emerged during my third month of residency training. The hospital admitted a 67-year-old woman with complex coronary artery disease complicated by previous cardiac surgery and significant comorbid conditions. The case required careful evaluation of surgical options and precise execution of a high-risk procedure that would challenge even experienced surgeons. Dr. Thompson assigned me to the surgical team as the junior resident, a role that typically involved basic assistance and observation rather than significant participation in critical decisions. However, my research background had provided extensive exposure to similar cases, and I had co-authored publications addressing the specific technical challenges that this patient presented. During the preoperative planning conference, I contributed insights from recent research literature that influenced the surgical approach. My analysis of outcome data from similar cases suggested modifications to the standard procedure that could reduce complications and improve long-term results. Dr. Thompson was impressed by the depth of my knowledge and invited me to participate more actively in the surgical planning process. The surgery itself lasted nearly 6 hours and required technical precision that tested the skills of the entire surgical team. My role evolved from basic assistance to active participation in critical portions of the procedure. Dr. Thompson guided my contributions carefully, but she allowed me to perform suturing and tissue handling that exceeded typical expectations for junior residents. The most crucial moment occurred when the patient experienced unexpected bleeding from a coronary anastomosis that threatened to compromise the entire procedure. The standard response would have been to convert to emergency bypass techniques, but my research experience suggested an alternative approach that could address the bleeding while preserving the planned surgical outcome. I proposed a modification to the anastomotic technique based on recent innovations that I had studied during my research coordinator years. Dr. Thompson evaluated my suggestion rapidly and decided to implement the approach, with my direct assistance in executing the modified procedure. The technique successfully controlled the bleeding and allowed completion of the surgery without compromise to the planned outcome. The patient's post-operative course was exceptional, with faster recovery and better functional outcomes than typically achieved with standard approaches. Dr. Thompson attributed the success partly to the innovative technique that I had suggested and implemented under her supervision. This recognition marked the first time that my research background had translated into direct improvement in patient care through surgical innovation. The case generated significant interest within the cardiac surgery department and led to invitations for me to present the technique at departmental conferences and grand rounds. These presentations provided opportunities to demonstrate not only technical competence, but also the analytical capabilities that distinguished my approach to surgical problem solving. Dr. Thompson began assigning me to increasingly complex cases that could benefit from my research expertise and innovative thinking. My role expanded beyond typical resident responsibilities to include participation in surgical planning conferences, consultation on challenging cases, and collaboration with attending physicians on procedure modifications and outcome analysis. This expanded involvement in complex cases accelerated my surgical training and provided exposure to procedures that would typically be reserved for senior residents or fellows. The combination of research background and clinical experience created opportunities for learning and contribution that exceeded those available through traditional residency pathways. My performance evaluations consistently highlighted exceptional analytical capabilities, innovative thinking, and rapid development of technical skills. Attending physicians noted that my approach to surgical challenges reflected sophisticated understanding of both current techniques and emerging innovations. Several evaluations specifically mentioned my ability to integrate research knowledge with practical surgical applications. The recognition of my capabilities within the department led to additional opportunities for professional development. Dr. Thompson invited me to participate in research projects that combined clinical practice with investigation of new surgical techniques. These projects allowed me to maintain involvement in academic medicine while developing expertise in surgical practice. My family began to take notice of the recognition I was receiving within the cardiac surgery community. Carlos attended one of my conference presentations and was surprised by the sophistication of my analysis and the respect shown by senior physicians. My parents received reports about my achievements from colleagues who worked in medical fields and began to reconsider their assessment of my professional capabilities. The most significant validation came when Dr. Thompson recommended me for early promotion to senior resident status, based on exceptional performance and demonstrated leadership capabilities. This promotion, typically awarded after 2 years of training, recognized that my preparation and achievements had accelerated my development beyond typical residency timelines. The early promotion required approval from the Residency Review Committee and involved comprehensive evaluation of my technical skills, medical knowledge, and professional judgment. The committee was particularly interested in my research contributions and the innovative approaches I had developed for addressing complex surgical challenges. During the evaluation process, I presented case studies that demonstrated the integration of research knowledge with surgical practice. These presentations highlighted specific instances where my analytical background had contributed to improved patient outcomes and advancement of surgical techniques. The committee was impressed by the sophistication of my approach and the measurable benefits of my contributions to patient care. The approval of my early promotion established me as one of the most promising residents in the program and created opportunities for advanced training typically reserved for senior residents and fellows. Dr. Thompson assigned me to lead surgical teams on complex cases and to serve as primary resident for procedures that would provide exceptional learning opportunities. The expanded responsibilities required development of leadership skills and the ability to coordinate surgical teams while maintaining focus on technical excellence and patient safety. My research background proved valuable in this leadership role, as it provided frameworks for systematic decision-making and evidence-based approaches to surgical challenges. My confidence as a surgeon grew substantially during this period, reinforced by consistent positive outcomes and recognition from colleagues and supervisors. The technical skills that had initially been my greatest weakness became areas of strength through intensive practice and focused development. My surgical technique began to reflect the precision and innovation that characterized my research contributions. The most personally significant development was the recognition that I had discovered my calling in cardiac surgery. The combination of technical challenge, intellectual complexity, and direct impact on patient outcomes provided professional satisfaction that exceeded anything I had experienced during my research coordinator years. The surgical training validated my original attraction to medicine while providing capabilities that enabled meaningful contribution to patient care. Dr. Thompson began discussing fellowship opportunities and career planning that would position me for leadership roles in academic cardiac surgery. Her mentorship extended beyond technical training to include guidance on research career development, academic networking, and strategic planning for long-term professional success. The fellowship discussions focused on programs that would combine advanced surgical training with research opportunities in cardiac surgery innovation. Dr. Thompson recommended pursuing training at institutions where I could develop expertise in emerging techniques, while maintaining involvement in research that would advance the field and establish my reputation as a thought leader. My family's evolving perception of my achievements became apparent during a visit to Baltimore when my parents observed my interactions with colleagues and patients. They witnessed the respect I commanded among senior physicians and the confidence I displayed in complex medical situations. My father later admitted that he had not understood the significance of my research background or the level of expertise I had developed. The transformation in family dynamics reflected broader recognition that my unconventional pathway through medical education had produced superior rather than inferior preparation for surgical training. The apparent setback of withdrawing from medical school had ultimately enabled opportunities for development that would not have been available through traditional approaches. As I progressed through advanced levels of residency training, my contributions to cardiac surgery research continued to expand and gain recognition within the academic medical community. I published additional peer-reviewed articles based on surgical innovations developed during my residency training, and I presented findings at national conferences focused on cardiac surgery advancement. These research achievements complemented my clinical development and reinforced my reputation as a resident who combined exceptional surgical skills with innovative thinking and analytical sophistication. The integration of research and clinical practice distinguished my approach to cardiac surgery and created opportunities for leadership that exceeded typical residency experiences. The foundation had been established not only for completing surgical training successfully, but for pursuing advanced fellowship training and academic career development that would position me for leadership in cardiac surgery. The early recognition of my capabilities and the accelerated progression through residency training validated the strategic decisions I had made during my return to medical education. The first major opportunity to demonstrate my surgical capabilities had resulted in recognition, advancement, and expanded responsibilities that exceeded my initial expectations for residency training. The combination of research background, analytical skills, and developing technical expertise had created a platform for contributions to cardiac surgery that would continue to expand throughout my training and beyond. The journey from research coordinator to recognized surgical resident had required exceptional dedication, strategic thinking, and unwavering commitment to excellence in both technical performance and intellectual contribution. The success of this transformation provided confidence that the remaining challenges of surgical training could be addressed through continued application of the same principles that had enabled my progress to this point. My trajectory within the cardiac surgery residency program demonstrated that unconventional pathways could produce exceptional outcomes when pursued with systematic preparation, strategic thinking, and commitment to continuous improvement. The apparent disadvantage of delayed entry into surgical training had become an advantage through the unique preparation and perspective I brought to the challenges of becoming a cardiac surgeon. The recognition I received following my early promotion to senior resident status created a foundation for expanding influence within the cardiac surgery department that extended far beyond typical residency experiences. Dr. Thompson's confidence in my capabilities led to assignments that positioned me as a bridge between clinical practice and research innovation, establishing patterns of collaboration and leadership that would define my professional trajectory throughout the remainder of my training. The most significant development during this period was my selection to lead a multi-institutional research initiative focused on minimally invasive cardiac surgery techniques. This project represented the largest research collaboration in the department's history and involved coordination between Johns Hopkins, Massachusetts General Hospital, and the Cleveland Clinic. The scope of responsibility, typically reserved for faculty members or senior fellows, demonstrated unprecedented confidence in my analytical capabilities and project management skills. The research initiative emerged from observations I had made during complex surgical cases about the potential for reducing patient recovery times and surgical complications through refined procedural approaches. My proposals for systematic investigation of these techniques had impressed Dr. Thompson and attracted interest from cardiac surgery leaders at partner institutions who recognized the potential for significant advancement in patient care standards. Leading this multi-institutional project required developing skills in diplomacy, strategic communication, and academic collaboration that extended well beyond traditional surgical training. I coordinated research protocols between institutions with different methodologies and priorities, while maintaining focus on rigorous scientific standards and clinically meaningful outcomes. The challenge demanded sophisticated understanding of both research design principles and the practical constraints of implementing new techniques across multiple surgical programs. The project's complexity provided exceptional opportunities for professional development that would have been unavailable through conventional residency pathways. I participated in high-level strategic discussions with department chiefs and senior faculty members who treated me as a colleague rather than a trainee. These interactions provided insights into academic medicine leadership and the decision-making processes that shape major research initiatives and departmental priorities. My role as project leader also required regular presentations to hospital administrators, research review committees, and potential funding organizations. These presentations demanded clear communication of complex technical concepts to audiences with varying levels of medical expertise. The experience enhanced my ability to translate sophisticated research findings into practical applications and policy recommendations that could influence institutional decision-making. The research coordination responsibilities complemented my clinical development by providing broader perspective on the relationship between individual surgical cases and systematic approaches to improving patient outcomes. Every procedure I performed contributed data to the research initiative while benefiting from evidence-based refinements that had emerged from ongoing analysis of technique modifications and outcome measurements. Dr. Thompson began involving me in departmental strategic planning discussions that addressed long-term goals for program development and faculty recruitment. These discussions provided insights into the administrative and political challenges of academic medicine leadership, while demonstrating the importance of research innovation in maintaining institutional competitiveness and advancing patient care standards. My contributions to these strategic discussions drew upon the analytical frameworks I had developed during my research coordinator years, while incorporating practical insights gained through surgical training and clinical experience. The combination provided a unique perspective that senior faculty members found valuable for evaluating opportunities and addressing challenges facing the department. The multi-institutional research project began producing preliminary results that validated the potential for significant improvements in patient outcomes through the minimally invasive techniques we were investigating. The early findings attracted attention from professional organizations and industry partners who recognized the implications for widespread adoption of enhanced surgical approaches. My presentations of these preliminary findings at national conferences, established my reputation within the broader cardiac surgery community as an innovative researcher with practical insights into surgical technique advancement. The presentations led to invitations to serve on professional committees and participate in expert panels focused on emerging trends in cardiac surgery practice. These professional recognition opportunities created networking relationships with established leaders in cardiac surgery who became mentors and advocates for my career development. The relationships provided access to fellowship opportunities, research collaborations, and academic positions that would shape my long-term professional trajectory in ways that exceeded typical residency outcomes. The success of the research initiative also influenced my standing within the Johns Hopkins Cardiac Surgery Program. Faculty members began consulting with me on research design questions and seeking my input on strategic decisions related to program development and resource allocation. This level of involvement in departmental governance was unprecedented for a resident and reflected recognition of my capabilities for leadership and innovative thinking. My clinical responsibilities continued to expand alongside my research leadership role. Dr. Thompson assigned me as primary surgeon for increasingly complex cases that would typically require attending physician involvement. These assignments demonstrated confidence in my technical skills while providing opportunities to apply the minimally invasive techniques that our research was validating through systematic investigation. The integration of research insights with clinical practice created a feedback loop that enhanced both my surgical capabilities and the quality of our research findings. Every procedure provided data that informed ongoing research while benefiting from evidence-based refinements that improved patient outcomes and reduced complications. This integration exemplified the academic medicine model that combines clinical excellence with research innovation. My approach to surgical cases began to attract attention from colleagues and visiting physicians who observed my procedures and noted the precision and innovation that characterized my technique. Several attending physicians requested my involvement in their complex cases, recognizing that my research background provided insights that could enhance surgical outcomes and advance technique development. The recognition from colleagues led to invitations to provide consultation on challenging cases outside the cardiac surgery department. Other surgical specialties sought my input on minimally invasive approaches and evidence-based technique modifications that could benefit their patients. These consultations established my reputation as an innovative surgeon whose analytical approach could contribute to advancement across multiple medical specialties. My family's understanding of my professional development continued to evolve as they witnessed the recognition I was receiving within the medical community. Isabella attended one of my conference presentations and was impressed by the sophistication of my research and the respect shown by senior physicians from multiple institutions. Her subsequent conversations with my parents helped them understand the significance of my achievements and the trajectory of my career development. Carlos visited Baltimore to observe my work environment and was surprised by the level of responsibility I carried and the deference shown by colleagues and staff members. His business background enabled him to recognize the leadership capabilities I had developed and the strategic thinking that characterized my approach to complex challenges. His revised assessment of my professional capabilities influenced broader family perceptions of my career trajectory. My parents began receiving reports about my achievements from colleagues in the medical community who recognized my contributions to cardiac surgery advancement. These external validations of my success challenged their initial assessment of my capabilities and provided evidence that my unconventional pathway had produced exceptional rather than inferior outcomes. The most significant validation came when I received the American Association for Thoracic Surgery Young Investigator Award for my leadership of the Multi-Institutional Research Initiative. This recognition represented the highest honor available to cardiac surgery trainees and established my reputation as one of the most promising researchers in the field. The award ceremony was attended by my family, who witnessed the recognition from national medical leaders. Dr. Hamas Thompson used the award ceremony as an opportunity to announce my selection for the chief resident position for the following academic year. This appointment represented the culmination of my residency training and positioned me for fellowship opportunities at the most prestigious cardiac surgery programs in the country. The presentations led to invitations to serve on professional committees and participate in expert panels focused on emerging trends in cardiac surgery practice. These professional recognition opportunities created networking relationships with established leaders in cardiac surgery, who became mentors and advocates for my career development. The relationships provided access to fellowship opportunities, research collaborations, and academic positions that would shape my long-term professional trajectory in ways that exceeded typical residency outcomes. The success of the research initiative also influenced my standing within the Johns Hopkins Cardiac Surgery Program. Faculty members began consulting with me on research design questions and seeking my input on strategic decisions related to program development and resource allocation. This level of involvement in departmental governance was unprecedented for a resident and reflected recognition of my capabilities for leadership and innovative thinking. My clinical responsibilities continued to expand alongside my research leadership role. Dr. Thompson assigned me as primary surgeon for increasingly complex cases that would typically require attending physician involvement. These assignments demonstrated confidence in my technical skills while providing opportunities to apply the minimally invasive techniques that our research was validating through systematic investigation. The integration of research insights with clinical practice created a feedback loop that enhanced both my surgical capabilities and the quality of our research findings. Every procedure provided data that informed ongoing research while benefiting from evidence-based refinements that improved patient outcomes and reduced complications. This integration exemplified the academic medicine model that combines clinical excellence with research innovation. My approach to surgical cases began to attract attention from colleagues and visiting physicians who observed my procedures and noted the precision and innovation that characterized my technique. Several attending physicians requested my involvement in their complex cases, recognizing that my research background provided insights that could enhance surgical outcomes and advance technique development. The recognition from colleagues led to invitations to provide consultation on challenging cases outside the cardiac surgery department. Other surgical specialties sought my input on minimally invasive approaches and evidence-based technique modifications that could benefit their patients. These consultations established my reputation as an innovative surgeon whose analytical approach could contribute to advancement across multiple medical specialties. My family's understanding of my professional development continued to evolve as they witnessed the recognition I was receiving within the medical community. Isabella attended one of my conference presentations and was impressed by the sophistication of my research and the respect shown by senior physicians from multiple institutions. Her subsequent conversations with my parents helped them understand the significance of my achievements and the trajectory of my career development. Carlos visited Baltimore to observe my work environment and was surprised by the level of responsibility I carried and the deference shown by colleagues and staff members. His business background enabled him to recognize the leadership capabilities I had developed and the strategic thinking that characterized my approach to complex challenges. His revised assessment of my professional capabilities influenced broader family perceptions of my career trajectory. My parents began receiving reports about my achievements from colleagues in the medical community who recognized my contributions to cardiac surgery advancement. These external validations of my success challenged their initial assessment of my capabilities and provided evidence that my unconventional pathway had produced exceptional rather than inferior outcomes. The most significant validation came when I received the American Association for Thoracic Surgery Young Investigator Award for my leadership of the Multi-Institutional Research Initiative. This recognition represented the highest honor available to cardiac surgery trainees and established my reputation as one of the most promising researchers in the field. The award ceremony was attended by my family, who witnessed the recognition from national medical leaders. Dr. Hamas Thompson used the award ceremony as an opportunity to announce my selection for the chief resident position for the following academic year. This appointment represented the culmination of my residency training and positioned me for fellowship opportunities at the most prestigious cardiac surgery programs in the country. The announcement generated applause from the assembled cardiac surgery community and demonstrated the exceptional trajectory of my professional development. The chief resident appointment carried responsibilities for coordinating the education and development of junior residents while maintaining leadership of major research initiatives and complex clinical cases. The role required exceptional organizational skills, diplomatic capabilities, and the ability to balance competing priorities while maintaining standards of excellence in all areas of responsibility. My approach to chief resident leadership emphasized mentorship and collaborative learning that drew upon my own experiences with unconventional career development. I implemented training programs that helped junior residents integrate research experience with clinical practice, while developing analytical capabilities that would enhance their surgical careers. These programs reflected my commitment to sharing the insights and opportunities that had enabled my own professional advancement. The leadership role also involved representing the cardiac surgery residency program to hospital administrators, medical school officials, and external organizations. These responsibilities required diplomatic skills and strategic communication capabilities that complemented my technical and research expertise. The experience provided preparation for future academic leadership roles while contributing to program development and institutional advancement. My final year of residency training included planning for fellowship training that would prepare me for independent practice and academic leadership. The recognition I had received through research achievements and clinical excellence created opportunities at the most competitive fellowship programs in cardiac surgery. Dr. Thompson recommended pursuing specialized training in heart transplantation and mechanical circulatory support at Stanford University, where I could develop expertise in the most advanced procedures while continuing research that would advance the field. The fellowship application process provided opportunities to present my research achievements and clinical experience to selection committees at leading cardiac surgery programs. My presentations emphasized the integration of research innovation with clinical excellence that had characterized my residency training while demonstrating the leadership capabilities and strategic thinking that would contribute to fellowship program advancement. The acceptance to Stanford's fellowship program represented validation of the exceptional preparation and achievements that had distinguished my residency training. The opportunity to continue development at one of the world's leading cardiac surgery centers demonstrated that my unconventional pathway had produced outcomes that exceeded those typically achieved through traditional training approaches. The transformation from research coordinator to recognized cardiac surgery resident and research leader had required exceptional dedication, strategic thinking, and unwavering commitment to excellence in both technical performance and intellectual contribution. The success of this journey provided confidence that the fellowship training and subsequent academic career development could be approached with the same principles that had enabled my progress through residency training. The pattern of growing influence that had emerged during my residency training reflected the power of combining analytical capabilities with clinical excellence and research innovation. The recognition I received from colleagues, professional organizations, and academic institutions demonstrated that unconventional preparation could produce exceptional outcomes when pursued with systematic planning and commitment to continuous improvement. My trajectory within cardiac surgery established a foundation for continued advancement through fellowship training and eventual transition to independent practice and academic leadership. The relationships, skills, and reputation developed during residency training positioned me for contributions to cardiac surgery that would extend far beyond individual patient care to include research advancement, education innovation, and professional leadership that would benefit the broader medical community. The transition to fellowship training at Stanford University introduced challenges that differed fundamentally from the academic recognition and institutional support I had experienced during my residency at Johns Hopkins. While my research achievements and clinical performance had established credibility within my home institution, entering a new program required proving myself again within an entirely different organizational culture and competitive environment. Dr. Robert Sinclair, the director of the Heart Transplantation Fellowship Program at Stanford, had recruited me based on my research publications and the strong recommendation from Dr. Thompson. However, during our initial meeting, he made clear that previous achievements would not guarantee success in his program. The fellowship demanded mastery of the most complex procedures in cardiac surgery, requiring technical precision that exceeded anything I had previously encountered, combined with decision-making capabilities that could determine patient survival in situations where margins for error were non-existent. The Stanford Cardiac Surgery Program operated within a highly competitive environment, where fellows were expected to demonstrate exceptional performance across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Technical surgical skills, research productivity, teaching capabilities, and administrative competence all contributed to evaluations that would determine future career opportunities and academic appointments. The pressure to excel in all areas created an intensity that challenged even the most accomplished trainees. My fellow trainees represented the most accomplished graduates from leading cardiac surgery residency programs across the country. Each had demonstrated exceptional capabilities during their training and had been selected from hundreds of qualified applicants. The competitive dynamics within this group required constant vigilance and strategic positioning to maintain standing and access to the most valuable learning opportunities. The first significant obstacle emerged during my initial month of fellowship training, when Dr. Patricia Walsh, the Senior Associate Director of the program, questioned whether my accelerated progression through residency training had provided adequate preparation for the technical demands of heart transplantation and mechanical circulatory support. Her concerns reflected broader skepticism within the academic cardiac surgery community about trainees who advanced rapidly through traditional milestones. Dr. Walsh's reservations were not entirely unreasonable. The procedures performed during fellowship training required technical mastery that could only be developed through extensive experience with complex cases. My research background, while valuable for analytical thinking and innovation, did not directly translate to the manual dexterity and spatial reasoning required for transplantation surgery. The concern was that my rapid advancement might have been based more on intellectual capabilities than fundamental surgical competence. The skepticism created additional pressure to demonstrate technical excellence while adapting to surgical procedures that differed significantly from the conventional cardiac operations I had mastered during residency training. Heart transplantation required precise coordination between multiple surgical teams, careful management of immunosuppressive protocols, and rapid adaptation to unexpected complications that could arise during the most critical phases of the procedure. My first transplant procedure as primary fellow proved more challenging than anticipated. The recipient patient presented complex anatomical variations that required modifications to standard surgical approaches. The donor heart experienced preservation complications that demanded rapid assessment and decision-making about transplant viability. The combination of technical challenges and time pressures tested my capabilities under conditions that differed substantially from my previous surgical experience. During the most critical phase of the procedure, when establishing cardiopulmonary bypass and removing the recipient's diseased heart, I encountered bleeding complications that threatened to compromise the transplantation timeline. The standard approaches to hemostasis were ineffective due to the patient's previous cardiac surgeries and extensive scar tissue formation. Dr. Walsh observed my technical response to these complications with obvious skepticism about my problem-solving capabilities under extreme pressure. The resolution of the bleeding complications required innovative application of techniques I had developed during my research into minimally invasive approaches. By adapting suturing methods from my previous research to the specific challenges of transplant surgery, I was able to achieve hemostasis while preserving the surgical timeline necessary for successful organ transplantation. The successful completion of the procedure demonstrated technical capabilities that exceeded Dr. Walsh's initial expectations. However, the complications during my first transplant case reinforced Dr. Walsh's concerns about my preparation for fellowship training. She implemented additional oversight procedures that required her direct supervision during complex cases and mandated supplementary technical training focused on mechanical circulatory support procedures. These requirements, while potentially beneficial for skill development, created visible indicators of diminished confidence that affected my standing within the fellowship program. The additional oversight requirements also created scheduling conflicts with my research responsibilities and teaching commitments. The need to demonstrate technical competence while maintaining productivity in other areas required exceptional time management and organizational skills. The competing demands highlighted the challenge of excelling across multiple dimensions simultaneously, while addressing concerns about fundamental surgical capabilities. The situation was complicated by the dynamics among fellow trainees who recognized the additional scrutiny I was receiving and interpreted it as evidence of inadequate preparation or performance deficiencies. The competitive environment within the program created incentives for peers to highlight any perceived weaknesses that might create advantages for their own advancement. The combination of faculty skepticism and peer competition created an isolating environment that differed dramatically from the supportive atmosphere I'd experienced during residency training. Dr. Michael Chang, the program's research director, provided crucial support during this challenging period. His evaluation of my analytical capabilities and research productivity contradicted Dr. Walsh's concerns about my overall preparation for fellowship training. Dr. Chang recognized that my research background represented a significant asset for the program and advocated for expanded opportunities to demonstrate my capabilities through innovative projects and collaborative investigations. The tension between Dr. Walsh's emphasis on technical training and Dr. Chang's focus on research development created conflicting expectations that required careful navigation. Success in the fellowship program demanded satisfying both perspectives, while maintaining personal confidence and professional relationships that would influence future career opportunities. The challenge required diplomatic skills and strategic thinking that extended beyond technical surgical competence. The most significant test of my resilience came when Dr. Walsh recommended extending my fellowship training by 6 months to address what she characterized as deficiencies in technical skill development. This recommendation, if implemented, would delay my transition to independent practice and potentially affect future academic appointments and career trajectory. The extension would also require explanation to potential employers and could create lasting questions about my surgical competence. Dr. Sinclair convened a comprehensive evaluation committee to assess the appropriateness of extending my fellowship training. The evaluation included review of my surgical performance, research productivity, and overall contribution to the program. The process required presentations defending my capabilities and addressing concerns that had been raised about my preparation and technical development. The evaluation committee included faculty members from multiple institutions who provided external perspective on my performance relative to standards at other leading cardiac surgery programs. Their assessment focused on objective measures of surgical competence, research productivity, and potential for future success in academic cardiac surgery. The external evaluation provided opportunities to present evidence of my capabilities while addressing concerns about accelerated progression through training milestones. My presentation to the evaluation committee emphasized the integration of research innovation with clinical excellence that had characterized my approach to cardiac surgery throughout my training. I provided evidence of technical skill development through case presentations and outcome data, while demonstrating research contributions that had advanced the field and benefited patient care. The presentation positioned my unconventional background as an asset rather than a liability for future contributions to academic medicine. The committee's deliberations extended over several weeks and included consultation with faculty members at Johns Hopkins, who could provide additional perspective on my residency performance and potential for success. Dr. Thompson's advocacy proved crucial in defending my preparation and capabilities, while addressing concerns about the appropriateness of my rapid advancement through training programs. The final decision supported my original fellowship timeline without extension, but included recommendations for additional technical training focused on mechanical circulatory support procedures. The outcome represented a compromise that addressed Dr. Walsh's concerns while preserving my career trajectory and academic opportunities. The experience provided valuable insights into the political dynamics of academic medicine and the importance of maintaining multiple sources of support and advocacy. The resolution of the fellowship extension controversy strengthened my relationship with Dr. Chang and positioned me for expanded involvement in research projects that would enhance my academic credentials. The additional technical training requirements, while initially perceived as punitive, actually provided valuable skills that would distinguish my surgical capabilities and enhance my competitiveness for academic positions. My relationship with Dr. Walsh gradually improved as I demonstrated consistent technical performance and continued research productivity. Her initial skepticism was replaced by grudging respect for my capabilities and recognition that my unconventional background had produced competencies that exceeded typical fellowship outcomes. The evolution of this relationship demonstrated the importance of persistence and professional excellence in overcoming institutional resistance and individual bias. The experience of navigating significant obstacles during fellowship training provided essential preparation for the challenges of independent academic practice. The resistance I encountered taught valuable lessons about managing criticism, building coalitions of support, and maintaining confidence in the face of systematic opposition. These skills would prove essential for future career advancement and leadership development within academic medicine. The technical skills I developed during the extended training requirements enhanced my surgical capabilities beyond original fellowship objectives. The mastery of mechanical circulatory support procedures positioned me for subspecialty expertise that would create competitive advantages for future academic appointments and research opportunities. The apparent setback of additional training requirements ultimately contributed to expanded capabilities and career options. My research productivity during fellowship training continued to exceed program expectations, despite the additional technical training requirements and oversight procedures. The integration of clinical innovation with systematic investigation produced publications and presentations that enhanced my reputation within the cardiac surgery community while demonstrating sustained commitment to academic excellence. The combination of technical competence and research achievement created a foundation for successful completion of fellowship training and transition to independent practice. The obstacles I encountered during this period strengthened my resilience and strategic thinking while providing insights into the dynamics of academic medicine that would influence my approach to future challenges and opportunities. The pattern of overcoming resistance through sustained excellence and strategic relationship building established approaches that would characterize my subsequent career development. The experience demonstrated that institutional skepticism and individual bias could be addressed through consistent performance and evidence-based demonstration of capabilities, even when operating within competitive environments that provided limited margin for error or setback. The crisis that would test every professional relationship and capability I had developed throughout my medical career emerged during my final month of fellowship training at Stanford University. The situation began with what appeared to be a routine heart transplantation procedure for a 54-year-old software engineer whose dilated cardiomyopathy had progressed to end-stage heart failure despite optimal medical management. The case presented standard technical challenges and proceeded according to established protocols until the postoperative period revealed complications that would ultimately threaten not only the patient's survival but my professional reputation and future career prospects. The transplant procedure itself had been executed with precision that reflected the technical skills I had developed during my fellowship training. The donor heart demonstrated excellent function, the surgical anastomoses were technically perfect, and the immediate postoperative period proceeded without apparent complications. The patient's hemodynamics stabilized appropriately, and initial laboratory values suggested successful transplantation with adequate organ function and appropriate immunosuppressive levels. However, during the second postoperative day, the patient began experiencing episodes of cardiac arrhythmia that were initially attributed to normal post-transplant physiological adjustments. The arrhythmias progressed in frequency and complexity despite standard interventions, and subsequent diagnostic studies revealed evidence of acute cellular rejection that was unusually severe for the early post-transplant period. The rejection episode required aggressive immunosuppressive therapy and close monitoring to prevent irreversible damage to the transplanted organ. The patient's clinical deterioration accelerated over the following 48 hours despite intensive medical management. Multiple episodes of ventricular tachycardia required cardioversion, and evidence of acute heart failure suggested that the rejection process was compromising transplant function beyond the scope of medical intervention. The transplant team convened emergency consultations to evaluate options for managing the crisis and determining whether additional surgical intervention might be necessary. Dr. Walsh assumed primary responsibility for managing the patient's care and initiated comprehensive review of all aspects of the transplantation procedure to identify potential causes for the unusually severe rejection episode. The review included examination of donor selection criteria, organ preservation protocols, surgical technique documentation, and postoperative management decisions. The investigation was conducted with the thoroughness typically reserved for cases involving potential medical errors or systematic failures in patient care protocols. The most concerning discovery emerged when pathology review of the donor heart revealed evidence of subclinical coronary artery disease that had not been detected during the pre-transplant evaluation. The coronary pathology suggested that the donor organ had been compromised prior to transplantation, potentially contributing to the postoperative complications and rejection episodes. The oversight in donor evaluation raised questions about the decision-making process that had led to acceptance of the organ for transplantation. My role as primary fellow during the transplant procedure placed me at the center of the investigation into potential errors in judgment or execution that might have contributed to the patient's deteriorating condition. The review committee examined my participation in donor evaluation, surgical decision-making, and post-operative management to determine whether appropriate standards of care had been maintained throughout the transplantation process. The investigation revealed that I had participated in the donor evaluation process and had reviewed the coronary angiography studies that should have identified the subclinical disease. The pathology findings suggested that the coronary abnormalities were subtle but potentially detectable, with more careful analysis of the imaging studies. The implication was that more thorough evaluation might have led to rejection of the donor organ and potentially prevented the postoperative complications. Dr. Sinclair convened a formal review committee that included external cardiac surgery experts to evaluate the case and determine whether medical errors had contributed to the patient's complications. The committee's mandate included assessment of my judgment and decision-making during the donor evaluation process, with particular focus on whether my inexperience or inadequate training had compromised patient safety and clinical outcomes. The formal investigation created an atmosphere of intense scrutiny that affected every aspect of my fellowship training during the final weeks of the program. My surgical cases were subject to additional oversight, my research activities were monitored more closely, and my interactions with faculty members became strained by the underlying questions about my competence and judgment. The situation created professional isolation that differed dramatically from the collaborative environment I had experienced during most of my training. The most devastating aspect of the crisis was the patient's continued deterioration. Despite aggressive medical management, the rejection episode progressed to require consideration of emergency retransplantation. But the patient's deteriorating condition made him ineligible for placement on the urgent transplant list. The medical team faced the prospect of losing a patient who had been expected to achieve excellent long-term outcomes following successful transplantation. My emotional response to the patient's declining condition was complicated by the investigation into my role in the complications. The natural concern for patient welfare was intensified by awareness that my career prospects were directly linked to the outcome of both the patient's care and the formal review process. The combination created psychological pressure that challenged my ability to maintain clinical objectivity and professional judgment during the most critical period of my fellowship training. The external review committee included Dr. Elizabeth Harris from the Cleveland Clinic, who had extensive experience in heart transplantation complications and medical error investigation. Her evaluation focused on the technical aspects of donor evaluation and the decision-making processes that had led to acceptance of the compromised organ. Dr. Harris's assessment would carry significant weight in determining whether my judgment had been reasonable given the available information and standard evaluation protocols. The committee review process required detailed presentation of my analysis of the donor evaluation data and explanation of the reasoning that had supported the decision to proceed with transplantation. The presentation demanded comprehensive understanding of transplant immunology, donor selection criteria, and risk assessment methodologies that extended beyond typical fellowship training requirements. The preparation required intensive study and consultation with experts in transplant pathology and immunosuppressive management. During my presentation to the review committee, I acknowledged the limitations in donor evaluation while defending the reasonableness of the decision-making process given the information available at the time of transplantation. The coronary abnormalities identified by subsequent pathology review were subtle and might have been missed even by experienced transplant surgeons. The case highlighted inherent uncertainties in donor evaluation that could not be entirely eliminated through improved protocols or enhanced training. The committee's deliberations extended over 2 weeks and included consultation with national experts in heart transplantation and donor evaluation. The investigation examined not only my specific role in the case, but also the adequacy of Stanford's donor evaluation protocols and the training provided to fellows in risk assessment and decision-making. The comprehensive scope of the review reflected recognition that the case had implications beyond individual performance evaluation. During this period of uncertainty, Dr. Chang provided crucial support by emphasizing my research contributions and overall performance throughout fellowship training. His advocacy helped maintain perspective on my capabilities while acknowledging the legitimate concerns raised by the transplant complications. Dr. Chang's support was particularly important, given his reputation for objective evaluation and high standards for fellowship performance. The patient's condition stabilized after 2 weeks of intensive medical management, with gradual improvement in cardiac function and resolution of the acute rejection episode. The recovery was attributed to aggressive immunosuppressive therapy and supportive care rather than any specific interventions related to the transplant complications. While the patient survival represented a positive outcome, the prolonged intensive care course and ongoing cardiac dysfunction created lasting concerns about long-term prognosis and quality of life. The committee's final report concluded that the donor evaluation had been conducted according to established protocols, and that the decision to proceed with transplantation had been reasonable given the available information. The coronary abnormalities identified by a pathology review were characterized as subtle findings that might have been missed even with more experienced evaluation. The report acknowledged that enhanced imaging protocols might have identified the donor organ limitations, but concluded that the current standards of care had been appropriately followed. However, the committee recommended additional training in donor evaluation for all fellows and implementation of enhanced imaging protocols for future donor assessments. The recommendations acknowledged that the case had revealed opportunities for improvement in evaluation processes, while concluding that no individual errors in judgment had contributed to the patient's complications. The resolution of the formal investigation provided vindication of my decision-making and judgment, while highlighting the inherent uncertainties and risks associated with heart transplantation. The experience demonstrated that even excellent clinical care could result in unexpected complications that challenged patient outcomes and professional reputations. The case provided sobering insights into the realities of surgical practice and the importance of maintaining perspective during adverse outcomes. My completion of fellowship training proceeded according to the original timeline despite the disruption caused by the investigation. The final evaluations acknowledged the exceptional circumstances of the transplant case while recognizing my overall performance and contributions to the program. Dr. Sinclair's recommendation letter for academic positions emphasized my research achievements and technical capabilities, while providing context for the transplant complications that had required investigation. The experience of navigating a major credibility crisis provided essential preparation for the challenges of independent surgical practice. The investigation taught valuable lessons about managing adverse outcomes, maintaining professional relationships during periods of scrutiny, and preserving confidence in clinical judgment when facing systematic questioning of competence and decision-making. The patient's gradual recovery continued throughout the months following my completion of fellowship training. His eventual return to full functional capacity vindicated the decision to proceed with transplantation despite the donor organ limitations. The long-term outcome provided retrospective validation of the clinical judgment that had been questioned during the acute complications and formal investigation. The crisis had tested every professional relationship and capability I had developed throughout my medical career, while providing insights into the political and personal dynamics that characterize academic medicine during periods of adverse outcomes. The experience strengthened my resilience and strategic thinking while demonstrating the importance of maintaining support networks and evidence-based approaches to clinical decision-making. The resolution of the credibility crisis positioned me for transition to independent practice with enhanced understanding of the challenges and responsibilities associated with complex surgical procedures. The investigation had examined my judgment and capabilities under the most demanding circumstances and had ultimately validated my preparation for leadership roles in academic cardiac surgery. The transition from fellowship training to independent practice required strategic relationship building that extended far beyond the technical expertise I had acquired during my years of surgical education. The academic cardiac surgery community operated within complex networks of professional relationships, research collaborations, and institutional partnerships that determined access to resources, career opportunities, and scholarly advancement. Understanding and navigating these networks would prove essential for establishing a successful academic career and achieving the leadership positions that aligned with my professional aspirations. Dr. Elizabeth Harris, the external reviewer who had participated in my credibility crisis evaluation, emerged as an unexpected mentor and advocate during my job search process. Her assessment of my clinical judgment and technical capabilities had contributed to the favorable resolution of the investigation, and her subsequent interactions revealed genuine interest in supporting my career development. Dr. Harris possessed extensive connections throughout the academic cardiac surgery community and provided invaluable guidance regarding institutional cultures, research opportunities, and strategic considerations for early career positioning. The relationship with Dr. Harris developed through regular correspondence that began during the investigation and continued throughout my final months of fellowship training. Her letters provided insights into the political dynamics of academic medicine, the criteria used by search committees for faculty appointments, and the strategic considerations that influenced career advancement within major medical institutions. The mentorship relationship represented my first exposure to senior-level perspective on academic medicine leadership and provided frameworks for strategic thinking about long-term career development. Dr. Harris introduced me to Dr. Jonathan Miller, the Chief of Cardiac Surgery at the University of Pennsylvania, who was developing a new program focused on minimally invasive cardiac surgery and mechanical circulatory support. The program represented an innovative approach to cardiac surgery that aligned closely with my research interests and technical expertise. Dr. Miller's vision for the program included significant emphasis on research advancement, fellows training, and the development of new techniques that could improve patient outcomes while reducing procedural complexity and recovery times. The initial discussions with Dr. Miller revealed exceptional alignment between his programmatic goals and my professional capabilities. My research background in minimally invasive techniques, combined with fellowship training in heart transplantation and mechanical support, provided exactly the expertise needed to advance his program objectives. The opportunity represented potential for immediate impact and leadership responsibility that would accelerate my career development beyond typical early faculty positions. Dr. Miller's program was supported by substantial institutional investment and strategic partnerships with device manufacturers and research organizations. The University of Pennsylvania had committed significant resources to establishing leadership in advanced cardiac surgery techniques, and was actively recruiting faculty members who could contribute to research advancement and clinical innovation. The program offered opportunities for rapid advancement and recognition that aligned with my ambitions for academic leadership. The recruitment process required extensive presentations of my research portfolio, clinical experience, and vision for contributing to program development. Dr. Miller was particularly interested in my publications related to minimally invasive techniques and my experience with mechanical circulatory support devices. The presentations provided opportunities to demonstrate the analytical capabilities and innovative thinking that had characterized my approach to surgical challenges throughout my training. During the interview process, I met Dr. Sarah Chen, the Director of Research for the Cardiac Surgery Department, who would serve as a crucial collaborator in developing research initiatives and securing funding for innovative projects. Dr. Chen's evaluation focused on my potential for productive research collaboration and my ability to contribute to the department's scholarly reputation. Her assessment would significantly influence the decision to extend a faculty offer and would determine the resources available for research development. The relationship with Dr. Chen developed through detailed discussions of research methodologies, grant writing strategies, and collaborative opportunities that could advance both individual careers and departmental objectives. Her expertise in research administration and funding acquisition complemented my clinical and analytical capabilities, creating potential for productive partnership that could enhance both research productivity and program development. Dr. Chen introduced me to broader networks of cardiac surgery researchers who were investigating similar questions related to minimally invasive techniques and patient outcome optimization. These connections provided opportunities for multi-institutional collaborations and access to research resources that would enhance the scope and impact of future investigations. The networks also provided professional relationships that would support career advancement and recognition within the academic surgery community. The University of Pennsylvania extended a faculty offer that included appointment as Assistant Professor of Surgery, with guaranteed research support and protected time for scholarly activities. The position offered immediate opportunities for independent research leadership, participation in fellows training, and development of clinical programs that aligned with my expertise and interests. The offer represented exceptional career acceleration and provided platforms for the recognition and advancement I had pursued throughout my medical education and training. The negotiation process for the faculty position required strategic thinking about resource requirements, career development timelines, and institutional commitments that would support long-term success. Dr. Harris provided crucial guidance regarding standard practices for early faculty appointments and negotiation strategies that could secure optimal conditions for research advancement and clinical development. Her mentorship proved invaluable for understanding the complex considerations that influenced faculty success and institutional relationships. My acceptance of the University of Pennsylvania position required careful coordination with ongoing research commitments and publication schedules that had been initiated during fellowship training. Dr. Chang provided support for completing collaborative projects and ensuring appropriate credit for contributions that had been made during my Stanford fellowship. The transition planning demonstrated the importance of maintaining professional relationships and honoring commitments that had contributed to career advancement. The announcement of my faculty appointment generated interest within the cardiac surgery community and led to invitations for speaking engagements and collaborative discussions with researchers at other institutions. The recognition reflected acknowledgement of my research contributions and potential for continued advancement in academic cardiac surgery. The invitations provided opportunities for further network development and scholarly engagement that would enhance professional reputation and career opportunities. Dr. Miller began involving me in strategic planning discussions for program development and resource allocation that would support the department's growth objectives. These discussions provided insights into administrative decision-making and institutional politics that influenced program success and faculty advancement. The early involvement in strategic planning demonstrated confidence in my potential for leadership and established expectations for significant contributions to departmental objectives. The relationship with Dr. Miller evolved beyond traditional faculty supervision to include collaborative planning for research initiatives and program development strategies. His mentorship provided guidance regarding academic leadership, institutional relationships, and the strategic considerations that influenced career advancement in academic medicine. The collaborative approach created opportunities for accelerated professional development and increased responsibility that exceeded typical early faculty experiences. My integration into the University of Pennsylvania Cardiac Surgery Department required developing relationships with established faculty members who possessed extensive experience and institutional knowledge. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, a senior faculty member with expertise in outcomes research, became a valuable collaborator in developing methodologies for evaluating new surgical techniques and assessing patient benefit from procedural innovations. His mentorship provided technical expertise in research design and statistical analysis that enhanced the rigor and impact of my investigations. The collaboration with Dr. Rodriguez led to joint grant applications and shared research projects that leveraged complementary expertise and institutional resources. The partnerships demonstrated the value of strategic relationship building and collaborative approaches to research advancement. The joint initiatives also provided opportunities for enhanced funding and expanded scope of investigation that would accelerate career development and scholarly recognition. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the Director of Quality Improvement for the Cardiac Surgery Department, provided essential guidance regarding implementation of new surgical techniques and assessment of patient outcome improvements. Her expertise in quality metrics and systematic evaluation complemented my clinical and research capabilities, creating opportunities for collaborative projects that could demonstrate measurable benefits from procedural innovations. The partnership established foundations for systematic evaluation of new techniques and evidence-based approaches to surgical advancement. The relationship networks I developed during my first year of faculty appointment created platforms for expanded collaboration and increased visibility within the academic cardiac surgery community. The partnerships provided access to research resources, funding opportunities, and professional recognition that accelerated career advancement beyond typical early faculty trajectories. The collaborative approach demonstrated the power of strategic relationship building for achieving ambitious professional objectives. My involvement in national professional organizations increased significantly during this period, with appointments to research committees and editorial boards that provided additional platforms for scholarly contribution and professional recognition. The appointments reflected acknowledgement of my research expertise and potential for continued advancement in academic cardiac surgery. The professional service also provided opportunities for network expansion and relationship development with leaders throughout the cardiac surgery community. The American Association for Thoracic Surgery invited me to serve on the Young Investigators Committee, which provided opportunities for collaboration with emerging leaders in cardiac surgery research and education. The appointment demonstrated recognition of my potential for continued contribution and leadership within the professional community. The committee service also provided platforms for advocating for research advancement and educational innovation that aligned with my professional interests and career objectives. Dr. Harris continued to provide mentorship and guidance regarding strategic career decisions and professional development opportunities. Her ongoing support demonstrated the value of maintaining relationships with senior faculty members who could provide perspective and advocacy throughout career advancement. The continued mentorship also provided insights into leadership development and institutional relationships that would influence future opportunities for academic advancement. The alliance-building efforts during my early faculty years established foundations for research collaboration, professional recognition, and career advancement that would continue throughout my academic surgery career. The strategic approach to relationship development demonstrated the importance of identifying complementary expertise, shared objectives, and mutual benefit in professional partnerships. The networks created platforms for enhanced productivity, increased visibility, and accelerated advancement that exceeded individual capabilities and resources. The relationships developed during this period would prove essential for subsequent career advancement and would provide the foundation for leadership opportunities and institutional recognition that would define my long-term professional trajectory. The investment in strategic relationship building demonstrated returns that validated the importance of collaborative approaches to academic career development and professional advancement in competitive medical specialties. The moment that would establish my reputation as a rising leader in cardiac surgery emerged from what initially appeared to be a routine research presentation at the American Association for Thoracic Surgery annual meeting in San Diego. The conference represented the premier academic gathering for cardiac surgeons worldwide, attracting thousands of practitioners, researchers, and industry leaders who gathered to share innovations, debate best practices, and shape the future direction of the specialty. My presentation was scheduled as part of a technical session focused on minimally invasive approaches, positioned among dozens of similar research reports that would compete for attention within the broader conference program. The research I was presenting represented 3 years of collaborative investigation into robotic-assisted mitral valve repair techniques that had been developed through partnerships between the University of Pennsylvania, Stanford University, and the Cleveland Clinic. The multi-institutional study had analyzed outcomes from over 400 procedures, representing the largest systematic evaluation of robotic mitral surgery conducted to date. The data demonstrated significant improvements in patient recovery times, reduced complications, and enhanced precision compared to traditional surgical approaches. However, the true significance of the research extended beyond the specific technical findings to encompass broader implications for the future of cardiac surgery training, hospital resource allocation, and patient care delivery. The robotic techniques required substantial institutional investment in equipment and training, but they offered potential for improved outcomes that could justify the additional costs. The economic analysis we had conducted suggested that widespread adoption of these techniques could transform cardiac surgery practice, while generating substantial benefits for both patients and healthcare systems. Dr. Miller had recognized the potential impact of our research and had advocated for prime presentation scheduling that would maximize visibility among conference attendees. The session was scheduled for the main auditorium during peak attendance hours, ensuring exposure to senior faculty members, department chairs, and industry representatives who could influence adoption of the techniques we had developed. The presentation opportunity represented exceptional visibility for early career faculty and provided platforms for recognition that could accelerate professional advancement. The preparation for this presentation required intensive collaboration with research partners at all 3 institutions to ensure comprehensive analysis and compelling presentation of findings. Dr. Chen provided crucial support in developing visual presentations and statistical analyses that would effectively communicate the complexity and significance of our results. The preparation process demonstrated the value of strategic partnerships and collaborative approaches to research advancement that had characterized my alliance-building efforts. The presentation itself exceeded my most optimistic expectations for audience engagement and professional response. The auditorium was filled beyond capacity, with attendees standing along the walls and sitting in aisles to accommodate the interest in our research. The audience included leaders from major cardiac surgery programs, representatives from medical device companies, and healthcare policy experts, who recognized the broader implications of our findings for surgical practice and healthcare delivery. During the question and answer session following my presentation, Dr. Thomas Anderson from the Mayo Clinic, asked detailed questions about the learning curve requirements for implementing robotic techniques and the training protocols we had developed for surgeons transitioning from traditional approaches. His questions provided opportunities to discuss the educational innovations we had created and the systematic approaches we had developed for skills transfer and competency assessment. Dr. Catherine Williams from Texas Heart Institute inquired about the economic implications of widespread adoption and the potential for these techniques to influence insurance coverage and healthcare policy decisions. Her questions allowed me to present the comprehensive cost-benefit analysis we had conducted and to discuss the broader healthcare implications of surgical innovation. The economic analysis demonstrated that improved patient outcomes and reduced recovery times could generate healthcare savings that would offset the additional technology costs. The most significant recognition came when Dr. Richard Harrison, the president of the American Association for Thoracic Surgery, approached me following the presentation to discuss potential collaboration on developing practice guidelines for robotic cardiac surgery. Dr. Harrison expressed interest in establishing a multi-society task force to evaluate implementation standards and training requirements for these emerging techniques. His invitation to lead this initiative represented unprecedented recognition for early career faculty and positioned me for national leadership in cardiac surgery innovation. The invitation to chair the Practice Guidelines Task Force carried substantial professional prestige and provided platforms for influence that would accelerate career advancement beyond typical academic trajectories. The task force would include representatives from major professional organizations, academic institutions, and healthcare policy groups, creating opportunities for network expansion and professional recognition that could shape long-term career development. The response from industry representatives at the conference demonstrated the commercial significance of our research and created opportunities for collaborative partnerships that could support continued investigation and technology development. Representatives from 3 major medical device companies expressed interest in funding expanded research and supporting multi-center clinical trials that could advance regulatory approval for new robotic systems and surgical techniques. Dr. Maria Santos from Medtronic approached me to discuss potential partnerships for developing enhanced robotic systems that could incorporate the technical innovations we had identified through our research. The collaboration would involve joint development of new surgical instruments and systems that could improve precision and expand the scope of procedures that could be performed using minimally invasive approaches. The partnership opportunity represented potential for significant research funding and commercial collaboration that could accelerate both technical advancement and professional recognition. The conference presentation generated immediate interest from academic institutions seeking to recruit faculty with expertise in robotic cardiac surgery. Representatives from Harvard Medical School, Northwestern University, and the University of California, San Francisco initiated preliminary discussions about potential faculty positions that would provide expanded resources and leadership opportunities. The recruitment interest demonstrated market recognition of my expertise and provided leverage for advancing my career objectives within academic medicine. Dr. Jennifer Park from Harvard Medical School scheduled a meeting to discuss their plans for expanding robotic surgery capabilities and their interest in recruiting experienced faculty to lead program development. The Harvard position would include appointment as associate professor with tenure track, substantial research support, and leadership responsibility for developing robotic surgery training programs. The opportunity represented significant career advancement and provided platforms for national influence in surgical education and innovation. The recruitment discussions required careful evaluation of institutional cultures, resource availability, and strategic considerations that would influence long-term career success. Dr. Harris provided crucial guidance regarding institutional comparison and negotiation strategies that could secure optimal conditions for continued advancement. Her mentorship proved invaluable for understanding the complex considerations that influenced academic career decisions and institutional relationships. My presentation at the conference was subsequently published as the lead article in the Journal of Thoracic and Cardiovascular Surgery, the premier publication in cardiac surgery research. The publication provided widespread visibility for our research and established permanent documentation of the innovations we had developed. The lead article positioning demonstrated editorial recognition of the significance of our work and provided credibility that would support future research and career advancement. The publication generated substantial correspondence from cardiac surgeons worldwide who were interested in implementing similar techniques and collaborating on expanded research. The international interest demonstrated the global significance of our innovations and provided opportunities for collaborative partnerships that could enhance research productivity and professional recognition. The international networks created platforms for continued advancement and leadership development within the global cardiac surgery community. Dr. Miller began involving me in strategic planning for departmental expansion and faculty recruitment that would support the University of Pennsylvania's leadership in robotic cardiac surgery. The strategic discussions provided insights into institutional decision-making and resource allocation that influenced program development and career advancement opportunities. The involvement in strategic planning demonstrated confidence in my potential for leadership and established expectations for continued contribution to departmental objectives. The recognition from the conference presentation led to invitations for keynote presentations at regional and international conferences that provided additional platforms for professional visibility and network development. The speaking engagements included presentations at the European Association for Cardiothoracic Surgery annual meeting, the Asian Society for Cardiovascular Surgery, and multiple regional cardiac surgery societies. The international speaking opportunities demonstrated global recognition of my expertise and provided platforms for continued professional advancement. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.